All right, good evening. This is Zia with Crypto Polaris. Welcome back to the show. We are going to talk about strategy versus Bitcoin. Do I have your attention, guys? This is going to be a very good show because I'm going to show you through numbers why putting $100,000 on MicroStrategy will outperform putting $100,000 in Bitcoin. Now, this show is all about making sure that the price of Bitcoin keeps going up. If you don't believe the price of Bitcoin is going to keep going up, then this show is not for you, nor is strategy, also known as MicroStrategy. Because one of the things that I'm going to talk about here is how MicroStrategy is going to outperform Bitcoin by 2.32 times, and how MicroStrategy leverages the current capital market to outperform Bitcoin. Of course, I'm a huge believer in Bitcoin. Look at this. I'm wearing my Bitcoin t-shirt, and I think Bitcoin will keep going up, multi-million dollars, and at the same time, strategy is going to keep going up. So let's dive right into agenda and let's talk about this. And I'm invested in both, by the way. Nothing I'm going to say is financial advice. It's my opinion. I personally have invested in Bitcoin and MicroStrategy, and I want to share my reasoning behind that. And after that, you do your own due diligence and figure out if this is something you would like to pursue. All right, so let's get started here. So what are we looking at here? On the agenda, I really want to explain to you strategy versus Bitcoin, why they are different. So we'll talk about that real quick. And then the money glitch. Michael Saylor of MicroStrategy has figured out how to leverage fiat money, meaning USD or euro, whatever the fiat money is, take that and buy Bitcoin over and over and over. And the valuation of MicroStrategy keeps going higher and higher and higher. Again, the premise here is Bitcoin has to keep going up. You fundamentally have to believe Bitcoin is going up for you then to take a leap into MicroStrategy. If Bitcoin doesn't go up, MicroStrategy does not work. And I'm talking about Bitcoin crashing down to $10, $5, $20. Even if Bitcoin crashes down to $50,000 and then keeps going up again, MicroStrategy does work. And I'm going to show you some of those things. So stay tuned, all right? Now, a lot of you guys have been asking me, why is MicroStrategy, and more importantly, Michael Saylor, constantly talking about NAV? What the heck is NAV? And to make things more confusing, he talks about mNAV. So I'll explain that real quickly for you because you have to understand these two figures for you to then understand why you would want to put money into MicroStrategy. Even though MicroStrategy is a technology company, now they have converted into a Bitcoin treasury company. So these terminologies are very important for you to understand. And MicroStrategy is nothing more than just a simple stock that you buy on NASDAQ, okay? Bitcoin, you cannot buy on NASDAQ. If you want to buy in the stock exchange market, you have to buy ETFs, which then buys Bitcoin, okay? MicroStrategy directly buys Bitcoin on your behalf and you buy the actual equity MicroStrategy. And then Bitcoin, if you want to buy it indirectly, you buy ETF. And there are pros and cons for both, okay? That's not what this video is all about. So let's keep going. And then I really will share with you what I believe is Michael Saylor is up to with his strategy company. It's very important to understand because all you see him do is buy Bitcoin. He must have an end game. He must have an end game. So let's talk about that. And then finally, I have a very, very detailed spreadsheet that I want to highlight some of the reasons why I have invested in MicroStrategy as well as Bitcoin, but I think MicroStrategy yields much more than Bitcoin directly. All right, so let's dive into it. So next slide right here, strategies, money, glitch formula. 6 steps. I boiled it to 6, you can boil it to 3, but effectively start with number 1. MicroStrategy, the common share, gets sold at the market. That ATM means at the market. That means on exchanges, you and me and other people actually buy MSTR equity share, okay? So he sells that into the market. Whatever money he gets from that, he immediately, number 2, buys Bitcoin with it. Are you still with me? So he sells MSTR to you and me, and I'll get into the reasons why you and I actually buy MSTR as opposed to buying directly Bitcoin. Then on number 3, he has another mechanism to get more cash. Not only does he do ATM at the market, which is step 1, selling MicroStrategy, he also has other types of instruments such as Strike, Strife, Stretch, and Stride. That's what these 4 things are. They actually have names behind it, but the actual equity ticker symbols are STRK, STRF, STRC, and STRD. What these are very creative financial instruments MicroStrategy has created above and beyond strategy for it to go after different types of people who would be interested in buying strategy, convertible notes, non-convertible notes, just bonds, standard bonds, zero coupon bonds, and options to convert into strategy shares. So he's got all sorts of different ways he is accessing the capital market to raise the money because he's in a hurry. He is on a mission and he is going to keep selling strategy many different ways to raise money and then buy Bitcoin because he has an ultimate goal. And I will share that with you, that I believe what I think his goal is. And then the next one, number 4, is buy more Bitcoin with number 3's money that he raised. And then number 5, which I'm going to dive into shortly, is leverage mNAV. As Bitcoin keeps going up, he can leverage more and more money and he can sustain paying interest on those bonds. And there are many different ways that he has formulated all of this through these 4 instruments: Strike, Strife, Stretch, and Stride. Okay. I have other videos that talks about what those things are. Some of them pay 9% interest. Some of them pay 10% interest. Some pay around 12% interest. So it's a quick way to raise money for various types of investors, not just regular investors like me who just buy shares and hold on to it. All right. And then number 6, repeat the whole cycle. Start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, repeat it again. And he's been doing it, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 times so far since 2020. And he has now bought so many Bitcoins, over 600,000 Bitcoins. All right. So let's keep going to the next one. Strategy versus Bitcoin. We all know Bitcoin is a commodity, like gold or oil. Bitcoin is a commodity. You can argue if it's a currency or not, but that's not why we're here. So let's just say Bitcoin is a commodity. Strategy is an equity, meaning it's a common share, MSTR, that gets sold on NASDAQ. Okay? They are both under different rules. MSTR is governed by SEC. Bitcoin is not governed by SEC. Bitcoin is governed by CFTC. Those are the guys that actually govern commodities. We were all confused about Bitcoin being commodity, not commodity. It's no longer a question. It is a commodity. So is Ethereum. So is XRP and others. And the other thing is strategy, the fact that it is an equity and all the instruments that I just showed you, Strike, Stride, Stretch, all of these instruments allows Michael Saylor to go into different types of capital market, $200, $300, $400 trillion of capital market, and raise that money to buy Bitcoin. Okay? So that's very, very unique way to buy Bitcoin through MicroStrategy. It's different and it's leveraged, but it's not as risky as you think. You just need to peel the onion back a little bit to see how these new way of raising money is so different than if you and I were coming from traditional finance. It's very hard to wrap your brains around this. Then the strategy behind the capital stack to raise money for Bitcoin is just laid out here. I actually have another video that does a deep dive into all of these things. And you can see from left to right, MSTR, Stride, Strike, Strife, and convertible bond. All right. So let's go a little bit deeper. What is a NAV? NAV stands for net asset value. We are all familiar with net asset value because it is on a balance sheet. If you do anything about your company, you got your P&L, you got your balance sheet. So this is now an asset. So I want to explain to you, and this is a screenshot from MicroStrategy's website. So the 2 things in red and 1 in green, let me explain that. That $117,668,000 that you see was the Bitcoin screenshot that I took a few hours ago. All right. To the right in red, you have 628,000 Bitcoins that MicroStrategy is holding. So when you take these two numbers in red, you multiply that, that gives you $74 billion, that's in green, that MicroStrategy net asset value is. Okay? So hold on to that. Every company has net asset value. A real estate company has net asset value based on the houses or the buildings that they actually own. Manufacturing companies have assets. They own all sorts of machineries, things like that. In the case of MicroStrategy, they own Bitcoin. All right? So now let's go to the next one, which is mNAV. M stands for multiple. So what is the multiple on net asset value? So stay with me, and I'm going to tie it all in with another slide. So the two things in yellow and one in green. All right? So now I already talked about one of the things in yellow, which is the NAV, BTC NAV, $74 billion. And the other yellow is mNAV. Right now, it's 1.6. I want you to think about its mNAV as if regular stocks have what's called price to earnings multiple. That's really what this is. It's what the market is willing to apply a multiple on MicroStrategy shares. So as of Friday, their multiple was 1.6 times. So then when you take the net asset value of 74 billion, multiply that by 1.6, which is the multiple, you multiply that out, you get an enterprise value of $118 billion. That is the current enterprise value of MicroStrategy. Okay? So now, as I get into all of my spreadsheet, I'm going to use all of these values, and you will see how MicroStrategy will outperform Bitcoin as they both rise and rise and rise. Okay? So now, goals for strategy. What the heck are they doing besides just buying Bitcoin? Their number one goal, as stated by Michael Saylor, is to buy at least 1 million Bitcoin. 1 million Bitcoin roughly is 5% of the total 21 million. You and I know 21 million Bitcoin doesn't exist. Anywhere between 3 to 5 million Bitcoins have been lost. So obviously his percentage of, let's say, over 16 million Bitcoins that may be available is much higher as a percentage. But let's just say there's 21 million Bitcoins and he is going to buy at least 1 million. I think he wants to buy a lot more than 1 million. And I'm going to show you a spreadsheet that actually takes it all the way up to 1 million. And it shows you what the MicroStrategy price would be. It shows you what the Bitcoin price would be. All right? The second bullet is very important. Lower the number of strategy shares needed to buy one Bitcoin. Okay? So remember, he's selling MicroStrategy shares, then he gets some cash, then he buys Bitcoin. As of Friday, he would have to sell 281 MicroStrategy shares to buy one Bitcoin because the price of MicroStrategy share was around 400 and some dollars. Okay? You multiply that by 281, you get roughly one Bitcoin price. So keep your eyes on this 281. And his goal is to take this 281 and keep lowering and lowering and lowering. All sorts of fancy financial terms are there on MicroStrategy's website and everything. But at the end of the day, this is the yield, okay? Yield per MicroStrategy or per Bitcoin. You can slice it two different ways. The way I like to look at it is very simple. How many MicroStrategy shares do I need to buy one Bitcoin? Of course, the more MicroStrategy price goes up, you need less of MicroStrategy to buy Bitcoin. But of course, Bitcoin is going up too, right? So my spreadsheet is going to talk to that. So hang tight. Now, number 3 bullet is very important. I challenge the traditional finance people, and this has been spoken by last earnings call by the president of MicroStrategy as well as Michael Saylor, that the mNAV, the way mNAV is being treated for MicroStrategy is unfair because the multiples of MicroStrategy is only 1.5 times their asset. Look at the sheet that I put, the Mag 7, the 7 top companies in NASDAQ with respect to technology. Meta, Amazon, Alphabet, Apple, Microsoft, Netflix, and I can't say the last one. I should know, NVIDIA. Yes, NVIDIA. Look at the multiples they get on their earnings. 25 times, 18 times, 58 times. I challenge you. And there are large influencers out there who tippy-toe around this because they don't want to put their foot down. I will go on record by saying, as long as the price of Bitcoin keeps rising and rising and rising, gets to $1 million, I believe the demand for mNAV of MicroStrategy will get to 3, 4, 5, maybe even higher. Maybe even higher. Listen to the earnings call. They're talking about 10 times. But in my calculation, I won't allow it to go more than 3 times. And even with that, you will see MicroStrategy is going to be 2.32 times investment return than Bitcoin. All right? So take a look at that. And then, of course, I think Bitcoin Bank is going to be created. What the heck is a Bitcoin bank? Just like any bank, he will be lending out Bitcoin for some returns in the future. He'll be earning more Bitcoins based on his Bitcoins. He will be doing commercial lending. He'll be doing as well private lending. That's where the world is going, all right? And then various derivatives of Bitcoin that he will create, probably synthetic, that he'll be able to make money. So when you think about MicroStrategy, it's not just accumulating the Bitcoin and having a net asset value. You have to give it much more multiples because it's going to have all sorts of other use cases that will allow it to earn more money than just holding Bitcoin. So guys, that's what I submit, the mNAV, and I will go on record. As long as Bitcoin keeps going up, million, million and a half, 2 million, 3 million, MicroStrategy's mNAV will be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. Okay? But for this exercise, I'll keep it below 3, I believe. All right, guys, this is the spreadsheet that I was talking about. And I want to focus your eye on this particular column here, MicroStrategy. This one is BTC owned. And then we'll talk about the BTC price. And then this is going to be interesting. How many MicroStrategy shares do you need for each Bitcoin? And then we want to talk a little bit about initial investment. And what I mean by that is we're going to put $100,000 of investment on MicroStrategy, and we're going to put $100,000 of investment on BTC. And I'm going to walk you through all of these things, okay? So now, there's lots going on here. Here's $418. Let's start with this. And right now, they own 628,000 Bitcoin, okay? Each row is going to be important. And then the current Bitcoin price, I don't know if you can see that. Let me blow it up, is 117,730, okay? So when I do all of that, and if I do the math here, to buy $117,000 worth of Bitcoin, I would need 281 shares of MicroStrategy to buy 1 Bitcoin, okay? Keep that in mind. And based on $408 and based on the BTC price, this net asset value is $74 billion, okay? And the current mNAV is 1.6. Stay with me, just trying to explain everything for one row, and then we will go through this really quickly, all right? This is the number of shares that is currently outstanding, about 283,754,000 outstanding shares. It's common shares, yes. And then let's see, we're going to talk about raising funds, selling shares, number of Bitcoin they acquire by selling, and what is the current enterprise value. Right now, as you saw in my other sheet, current enterprise value is $118 billion. And this is the MicroStrategy and the gains and all of that. Let's go to row 2. And this is where it gets interesting. So all things being equal, I said, what if the price of Bitcoin became $124,000? And the moment you do $124,000 and you change the mNAV to 1.85 because the price of Bitcoin is going up, so people will give the mNAV a little bit more for MicroStrategy. What then happens automatically is outstanding shares don't change, but the price of MicroStrategy goes to 508 because it's based on mNAV, all right? And the number of shares are still the same for Bitcoin. So now let's find a row that's in red right here. Do you see this? That is row number 4. So let's follow what I did in row number 4. At row number 4, I said the price of Bitcoin is 135, all right? And the mNAV is now have risen at 2.6. And the reason for that is the price of Bitcoin has risen to 135. Now, this is critical, guys. And why is this in red? And that red means Michael Saylor is going to sell because he's on record by saying he will not sell unless the mNAV is over 2.5 or the MicroStrategy share is over $650. Right. So based on this calculation, the current price of MicroStrategy is $778. Okay. So now he wants to raise, I just made this up, $3.5 billion, meaning he wants to sell $3.5 billion worth of micro shares. What does that mean? That means he has to sell almost 4.5 million MicroStrategy shares. Oh my goodness. When you do that at the price of $778, you can then buy almost 26,000 Bitcoins. And the moment you do that, see, the price hasn't changed yet, but next go around, let's go to row 5. Now we bought, right? When you buy, notice it went from 628 to 654. So now we have more Bitcoins, all right? When you have more Bitcoins and you just dumped $3.5 billion, what do you think is going to happen to the share price of MicroStrategy? It was 778. Now it's 604. That is the volatility you get when he actually sells in the market. So the price of MicroStrategy went down. This is why you keep seeing the MicroStrategy share price keep going down. Okay? So let's follow this logic. So where was I? Right here, 604. He now has more Bitcoin. The value of Bitcoin has gone up, but his mNAV, he's getting punished, was dropped from 2.6 to 1.9. It's just something I made up. Naturally, it should go down, right? And so what happens is, I've also, look at that, 288, before was 283 million. This is the dilution of shares. So I've taken that into account because we just added more shares into the open market. So dilution took place. So all of this in my spreadsheet, that's in red everywhere. He is now doing at the market sale, okay? And he's always looking at what his mNAV is and what the share price is. And look at that. Every time it hits 2.6, 2.7, 2.6, 2.8, it allows him to dump. Look at this in this particular case. He's selling 6.5 billion, 7.5 billion. Let's take a look at 7.5. How can he afford to sell $7.5 billion worth of shares? That's because at that time, it's crept up. The MicroStrategy now is $1,850. And I've got the Bitcoin price at $275,000 and his mNAV is 2.7. And when that happens, he is going to sell $7.5 billion, which is about 4 million shares, because it's less shares now because the price of shares have gone up. And what is interesting, I want to take your eye on this purple. Remember, this is MicroStrategy shares per Bitcoin. It started off with 281. And my example of 750, let's move over here. Look what has happened. Now it takes only 148 MicroStrategy shares to buy one Bitcoin. And the price of Bitcoin is now right here, $275,000. So bottom line, scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. Remember I said he wants to buy 1 million shares? And I'll link this spreadsheet. You can take a look at it. There's a lot of thought process that went into this. He gets to 1 million shares. And by that time, I anticipate the price of his MicroStrategy should be around $7,600 because his net asset value has gone to $1 trillion here. Because the price of Bitcoin is $1 million. You have 1 million Bitcoin, then naturally your net asset value is going to go up. And notice all of these multiples, 2.9, 3.1, 2.7, it allows him to sell $12 billion, $15 billion. It sounds crazy, guys, but it's all doable. It's all money glitch. That is why I know you're used to him selling 3.5 billion right now. You never thought he could sell $3.5 billion worth of shares. Well, he's doing it. So for him to be able to sell 15 billion, 35 billion, 40 billion, when the price of Bitcoin is $1 million and his share price is $7,400 is very doable. Let's do a wrap real quick. What I want to do here is go up. Remember I said the initial investment of MicroStrategy was 100,000. and Bitcoin was 100,000. If you scroll down, you will notice that by row 35, right here, let's say that's 2-3 years from now, your $100,000 have appreciated by 1,700%, which effectively means your $100,000 is worth $1.7 million. In the case of Bitcoin, it appreciated 749%, nothing to laugh at. And your 100,000 have become $749,000. I hope that made a lot of sense here. This is a very, very complicated spreadsheet, and I'm super excited to be able to share this with you guys. You notice that the mNAV was no more than 3.13. I think the mNAV will go 4, 5, 6. So the share value of MicroStrategy can easily go above $10,000. Not a financial advice. This is my opinion. This is my calculation based on MicroStrategy will be going up as long as Bitcoin keeps going up, up, up. Yes, MicroStrategy can take a lot of hit. MicroStrategy doesn't really need to be liquidated or anything like that unless MicroStrategy's Bitcoin value itself goes below about $13,000. I don't think we're going to see $13,000 of Bitcoin. Why? Genius Act has passed. Clarity Act is about to be passed in Senate, and actually Donald Trump will be signing it next month. And then there is also Bitcoin Reserve. 1 million Bitcoin will be bought in our strategic reserve. On and on and on. People are just buying Bitcoin left and right. So many treasury companies. I'll link another Bitcoin detail video in here so you can take a look at it. It was a pleasure doing all of this for you guys. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you thought about it. Send some comments, DM me, and certainly, subscribe. And I look forward to doing another video for you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.